saying that Facebook will start nuking Democrats too because. Right.
So no, I do want them to repeal 230, and they think it's gonna. They're like, you guys are stupid. If they repeal 230, they're just gonna ban you. Yeah, they are. So you telling me overnight Facebook, Twitter, YouTube are all gonna become echo chambers? Well, that's cool because their views are gonna go.
Yeah. Well, that's cool then.
And what'll happen is
spread the wealth.
Yep, and you'll get Minds, and you'll get Rumble, and you get Parler, and you get all these other parties, and then suddenly, the FTC doesn't have to worry about breaking up Google, Facebook, and Twitter anymore because they broke themselves up. Because so that's fine. I mean, yes, I totally know
but they're
that
not going to do it though. They're not going to repeal 230.
If we didn't do it with Trump, it's never going to happen.
But still, if they keep banning people, whether it's slow or fast. Eventually, those other companies will start up. They got a life. They got a lifespan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're on a
They're
clock.
not gonna be here forever.
They're on a clock. I think that over a long enough period of time, we do go to different. Whether it's through federal oversight and intervention or some other method, we will eventually start to move away from. But we won't let this happen again. We've always been warned about this. Hell, Pixar's been warning us about this since their first movie, By and Low. By and Low, and what's the other one?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there was two companies. They both mean the same. By and Large, and there's another
the one that was in Wall-E.
Yeah, there's another company, and that's it, man. They're like the entire world, and even you've seen the movie Idiocracy, right?
No.
Oh, dude, that is mandatory viewing. You have to see Idiocracy because, like, dude, it just. All the companies keep getting bought down to where it's just Carl's Jr. Like Carl's Jr. owns everything except the stuff Brando owns. Brando and like Hardee's, Carl's Jr. end up owning the entire world, and that's it. And it's because they just kept tying everything together. And that's like, we can't let that happen because eventually it'll quit being called Earth. And it'll start be calling Planet Amazon or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think they'll let it that far.
Dude, at one time back in the olden days, the biggest standing army in the world was owned by a corporation. The East India Dutch, the Dutch East India Company or Trading Company or the India Trading Company. They had the world's largest standing army. It was like 250,000 soldiers. It was a corporation. They're still around. They've never completely evaporated.
Yeah.
The Dutch East India Trading Company, I think is what it was called. But yeah, no, they were
had the biggest army.
If they had decided to take over a continent, they could have. But they weren't interested in that. They were interested in money. Or they didn't realize they were the biggest army in the world. Only a few times in history have countries or organizations possessed the most power in the world and not used it to take over the world. And it's very rarely happened. Yeah. We are the best example of that. We are the most powerful country that's ever existed who hasn't tried to take over the whole world.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't. And so we're past that point. We're past the coulda, well into the didn't. So if it happened now, that just means it happened eventually. But like previously in history, dude, if somebody had amassed as much power as we have, the whole planet speaks their language. You know what I'm saying? Like if the Romans had the power we had, if the British Empire had the power we have, the whole planet would have been British. Germany had like a percentage of the power we had and tried. They're like, we got it. And everybody's like, you don't. And they're like, we got it. Like, you don't. And then they were like, oh shit, we don't. They weren't even the biggest army when they did that.
Germany?
Yeah.
They were backed by some powerful
They were pretty
armies.
powerful. Well, they were pretty powerful on their own. There's no question. They had a huge army, but they weren't the biggest army on the planet at the time. They just thought they were. That really, my guess with Germany is they thought they would pick up more people to their ideology. They didn't expect it to be them fighting the whole world. They expected them fighting a couple places and then other places signing on. And no, only you bitches were crazy. The rest of us were having a good old time in the 40s. Y'all decided to get all stupid. And then Germany or Japan just had to go with you and be stupid. So there was some popping that needed to be done, and we let y'all try to sort it out for like 5 years. We let y'all try to sort it out, and then you had to get us involved. And then we ended that war within a couple years of getting us involved. Like, the whole war. There was wars going on all over the planet during World War II. Like, all over the place. And, dude, within like 4 years of us getting poked. Poke the fucking bear. We're like, oh, you guys woke up Dad. I hear him come down the stairs. It's too late already.
What's going on with China now, though?
I mean, China's still trying to do the economic thing. They think they can economically take over the world because their military ain't ready for
I just
war.
been hearing a couple people talk about we should just cut them off completely. They talking about they infiltrated every.
Oh,
Facet
their fingers and everything. It's like, for instance, it would be like, well, imagine if the United States was interested in covertly trying to take over everything on the planet. That's what China's doing. But the problem with China is they'll make out a deal where it's like, okay, so we're gonna really go through a terrible economic period for 30 years, but after that 30 years, we'll have taken over so much of the manufacturing of the planet that we can jack up our prices and we'll be able to live large. And so they got through the 30-year part, and the moment they tried to get to the jack the prices up on everything, global pandemic. And then, on top of that, people were like, wait a minute, so you're raising the prices on stuff, so it's more economic for us to make it again. Okay, cool, we'll go back to making it again, and do. And so, like, for a while, the entire planet was getting steel from China. Jesus. Where it was getting steel from China. Well, China started raising their prices. Steel started getting shittier again. And Trump was like, hey, steel sucks. Let's make steel again. And so we make steel again. And so we've gotten back into the market. So China went through the whole shitty part of it. And now when they're in the payoff part, the world's like, hey.
They got fucked.
Hey, you can't do that. And so they're in a really unique position where they do have their fingers into everything. And they're really powerful. Like, anybody on the continent of Asia should absolutely be concerned about China. Because anywhere China can walk to, they could decimate. But they have to be able to walk there. Because they got no navy. If you got no navy, you can't impose your will on anybody without a navy. And their navy is comical at best. Here's the deal. When you use shitty steel for everything you do, it's okay if a building collapses. It's okay if this. It's okay if that. But when your brand new your destroyer goes out for a test run and fires its main gun and the entire thing comes apart because it was built by Chinese basis.
Yeah.
Makes it tough to fight a war, man. Makes it like they built an aircraft carrier. It was comically underpowered. They used a different, like, we use like a cable jet ram system to launch our planes off the ships, because one of the biggest problems of launching a plane off an aircraft carrier is that plane is heavy because it's full of fuel. Yeah. And then we strap as much armament to it as we can, which means we put as much weaponry on it as that plane can physically carry.
Yeah.
So it's heavy. So you have to have a badass aircraft carrier to be able to launch fully loaded F-16s, F-18s into the air. Mm-hmm. Well, China tried to build themselves an aircraft carrier, right? The thing is so weak that you have a choice. You can either take weapons or a full fuel load. Which one you want? Okay, so here's the problem with that. So the reason an aircraft carrier needs those planes is it needs to defend itself. Okay, yeah. So your options are, you can either view an area this big, okay, this big, or you can defend an area this big. You get what I'm saying? Because you can't carry weapons out this far. and you only have enough fuel if you carry weapons to go around this area.
Yeah.
So literally their aircraft carriers are like completely neutered. Like our aircraft carriers, we never send them alone. They're always part of a fleet, usually 1 or 2 subs, a couple destroyers, a couple supply vessels, maybe a fuel vehicle, something like that. Our aircraft carrier on its own is pretty fucking baller. Like, it could do okay on its own. It's going to get destroyed by a sub if it was on its own, but it will wreak massive amounts of damage because it's got like 30 or 40 F-16s on it. So, like, if we just put all of those into the air, imagine that. Like, you come in an aircraft carrier with like 2 or 3 destroyers, and then I send 40 F-16s at you. Pretty formidable challenger there. Well, if you're our aircraft, now let's imagine our aircraft carrier can only carry like 20 F-16s or whatever the Chinese version of that is, and they can't be fully loaded. Much easier target. Much easier target. So, dude, they even did the thing on the end of their bow on the aircraft carrier where it sweeps up because they needed that extra little bit of boost to try to get their planes. They basically fling them off the end. Dude, on our aircraft carriers, like roughly 2/3 of the way down the takeoff, if the takeoff fails at that point, the jet will be able to hold itself just about off the water.
Yeah.
Certainly long enough for the pilot to eject. Like, the ones off the Chinese carriers don't even leave. I mean, it's embarrassing. And they're terrible. And their aircraft carrier is a decommissioned Russian ship because they can't even build hulls like we were doing like 80 years ago. Like, because it's just,
why do people believe China's such a threat?
Because they're so big, dude. 2.5 billion people. That is a tremendous amount of people, dude.